Have you ever been playing D&D and you think like, this is it. This is where my character, becomes a legend.
Right.
Not just like they got a cool new magic item or leveled up, but because of, a moment that just felt truly heroic. We're diving deep into that today.
Yeah.
Crafting epic moments in your games.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at an article from LitRPG Reads by Paul Bello on this topic.
I can think of a time when my character was faced with a really tough decision.
Okay.
She's a rogue, and she had kind of a shady past.
Right.
But the party had just found like this hidden vault just overflowing with treasure.
Wow.
Enough to make us all, super rich.
Yeah.
But there was a nearby city, and everyone was starving.
Oh, no.
So it was that struggle, between personal gain and helping those in need.
Yeah.
And that's what made it feel like more than just a game.
That's really interesting that you say that, because the article talks a lot about decisions. How, meaningful decisions are at the heart of heroic moments.
Yeah.
These choices you make,
Yeah.
they shouldn't be easy, right?
Yeah.
They should have consequences. They should maybe even require sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Like, what does your character have to give up to do the right thing?
Yeah, Bello says that
Yeah.
true heroism in D&D, it goes beyond just rolling high on attack rolls or having tons of gold.
Okay.
It's about those moments where
Okay.
your values are tested.
Yeah.
It's like, are you going to risk your life for a stranger? Would you stand up to like a corrupt official?
Yeah.
Even if it means like something terrible is going to happen to you.
Right.
Those are the choices that like reveal your character's true nature.
Yeah.
And that's what leaves an impact on the world.
It's not just about making the decision, though, is it? It's also about how the world reacts to the decision.
Right.
So, like, imagine you liberate a town from a terrible ruler, and then years later you go back, and that town is flourishing
Wow, yeah.
because of the freedom that you help them achieve.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that makes a campaign world feel alive.
You could have a statue erected in your honor.
Right.
Or hear bards singing songs about your deeds. Or like maybe even just a simple thing like an NPC who used to be hostile to you.
Okay.
Now they treat you with respect because they remember you helped them.
Yeah.
It's like the world remembers what you did.
Right.
It changes because of you.
And that reminds me of another thing that Bello brings up, which is environmental storytelling.
Okay.
So he says that the world itself can be a huge part of crafting these really memorable moments.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, imagine your party's exploring a forest and there are all these rumors that it's haunted
Right.
by these ancient spirits.
Spooky.
Or maybe you're going into a dungeon and it like shifts and changes every hour.
Oh, wow.
Like environments that are more than just a visual description and actually like challenge you in unexpected ways. That's what makes it memorable.
It's not just a static backdrop.
Exactly.
The environment.
Yeah.
It's like another character in the story.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be like super dramatic or fantastical.
Okay.
What if your players have to cross a mountain pass and there's a blizzard
Oh, no.
and they have to work together just to survive?
Right.
Or maybe they find this like hidden grove that's totally peaceful.
Okay.
And it gives them a moment of respite.
Yeah.
These little moments shaped by the environment can be just as impactful as any battle.
But it's not just the physical environment either, right?
Right.
He also talks about how the lore and history of the world can also be a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
So, like, your players could discover an ancient map
Okay.
that reveals a hidden pathway
Cool.
through, like, a treacherous swamp or something,
Yeah.
or they uncover a prophecy
Right.
that hints at their character's destiny.
I love that those kinds of discoveries really draw you into the world and they make you feel like you're part of shaping the story.
It's not just a pre-written storyline.
Right.
Yeah, you're like uncovering secrets and changing the history of the world.
It's like you're an archaeologist.
Right.
Uncovering these ancient mysteries.
And that sense of discovery.
Yeah.
That's what makes D&D so much more than just, rolling dice and fighting monsters.
Right.
It's about exploration. It's about, uncovering knowledge.
Yeah.
And being a part of shaping the story.
Exactly.
So it sounds like true heroism in D&D.
Yeah.
It's not just about like one thing.
Right.
It's about meaningful choices.
Yeah.
It's about consequences. And it's also about understanding the world.
And its history.
And its history, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're really part of this living, breathing world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not always about like huge gestures or world-altering events. Sometimes the most heroic moments are really quiet.
Interesting.
Like acts of courage or compassion or just being selfless.
It's about that small act of defiance. You know, when everybody tells you to back down.
Yeah.
But you stand up for what you believe in.
Right.
That can spark a revolution.
Yeah.
And maybe even change the world.
Exactly. Or it could be something as simple as sharing your last ration with someone.
Oh, wow.
Even though you're going to be hungry.
Yeah.
It's about those little choices that show your true character.
So how do we actually design those smaller moments into our games?
Yeah.
You know, you could just throw a bigger monster at the party.
You're right.
But how do we create those opportunities for, you know, meaningful character development?
Well, instead of having them just fight their way through a dungeon to get a magic item, what if they run into a group of refugees who are fleeing a war and they need help? Does the party risk their mission to help them?
Right.
Or do they prioritize their objective, knowing that people might die?
That's such a great example.
Right.
Because it's not about, like you said, just getting the loot or winning the fight.
Yeah.
It's about making these tough choices that really make you think about what your character would do.
And there's no right or wrong answer.
That's true.
It depends on the characters, their backgrounds, their motivations, and that makes for a much better story.
So it's about creating situations where the choices have real weight and consequences.
Yeah. And it's not just about the immediate consequences. It's about the ripple effects.
Right.
So maybe helping those refugees earns you the gratitude of a powerful faction.
Okay.
But ignoring them makes people distrust you.
Right.
It's like those choices matter in the long run.
They have an impact on the world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what makes a campaign unforgettable.
It's about creating a world that feels alive. And like it reacts to what you do.
Yeah.
It's about moving beyond the idea of heroes as invincible warriors.
Okay.
And embracing like the complexities of morality and sacrifice.
And those little acts of kindness.
Yeah.
That can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
And that's really, I think, where the magic of D&D lies. It's not just telling a story.
Right.
It's like a shared experience.
Yeah.
That can create, you know, really powerful bonds. Between people.
And memories that last.
And memories that last, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be back after a short break.
Okay.
To explore more ways to bring these heroic moments to life in your D&D games.
Sounds good. And you know what else can create those memorable moments?
What's that?
Villains.
Oh, yeah. Villains.
The article talks about how a really good villain can make the players feel like heroes.
Makes sense. You can't really have a hero without somebody to, you know, overcome.
Right.
But he goes a little deeper than just like, you know, the big bad evil guy.
Yeah.
He talks about giving villains motivations that are relatable or even tragic.
Like, what if the villain was once a noble knight?
Okay.
But then they saw something terrible.
Oh.
And it drove them to do bad things.
Wow.
Or maybe they're a ruler who's trying to save their people.
Okay.
But they have to make these impossible choices.
Because they're doing bad things for a good reason.
Right. It's not so simple.
That makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah.
Because then you're not just fighting like a faceless evil.
Right.
You're fighting somebody who has their own reasons for doing what they're doing.
Yeah, like Darth Vader.
Oh, yeah. Good example.
He was driven by loss in the dark side.
Right.
And Magneto, he was trying to protect his people.
Yeah. But he went about it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And that's what makes those villains so compelling.
Right.
Because you can kind of understand where they're coming from.
And that makes the victory even more satisfying. Because it's not just about brute force. It's about, like, understanding their ideology. Or maybe even redeeming them.
Right. Or like breaking a cycle of violence.
Exactly.
It's about more than just winning the fight.
Yeah, you're changing things.
Yeah. And those victories feel earned. Because it took more than just, you know, swinging a sword.
Right.
It took empathy and strategy.
And maybe even compromise.
Yeah.
Or negotiation.
So a great villain can really push the players towards those heroic moments.
Absolutely.
Because they make them think
right
about what it really means to be a hero.
And that's what makes D&D so special.
Yeah.
It's not just a game.
Right.
It makes you think about big questions.
Like what's right and wrong?
Yeah.
What does it really mean to be good?
Exactly.
And that brings us to another big part of this.
Okay.
Which is player agency.
Player agency.
Yeah. So the article talks about how important it is to give players the freedom to make their own choices.
Right.
They're not just following a script.
Yeah, they're shaping the story.
So how do we do that? How do we give players more control over what happens?
Well, one way is to kind of move away from those really structured storylines.
Okay.
And give them more of a sandbox.
Like a world full of possibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of telling them where to go, you present them with a world.
Okay.
And let them decide.
So instead of saying you must go to this dungeon, you might say there are rumors of a lost city.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Exactly.
And then they get to choose.
And that makes them feel like they're really a part of the world.
Like they're not just playing a game.
Right.
They're living in it.
Yeah.
And making it their own.
And when that happens, you get these amazing heroic moments.
Like what kind of moments?
Well, maybe a player decides to go on a quest.
Okay.
That you didn't even plan for. Or they come up with a strategy that totally changes a battle.
It's like they're surprising even you,
the
dungeon master.
It's awesome.
So it's about giving them space to be creative.
And to take risks.
And you, as the dungeon master, you're there to support them.
Right. I'm like the facilitator. I create the world, but they get to build their own stories in it.
And that takes trust.
It does.
On both sides.
Yeah.
You have to trust your players to make interesting choices.
And they have to trust me.
Yeah.
To respect their choices.
To create a world where their choices matter.
Exactly.
And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
When everybody's working together.
To tell an amazing story.
And that's what makes those heroic moments so powerful.
Because they come from the players.
It's not just something you wrote down.
Right.
It's something that they created.
Yeah.
Through their choices and their actions.
And that's what makes D&D so much more than a game.
Yeah, it's a shared experience.
It's about imagination and creativity.
And it can create memories and friendships.
Absolutely.
That last a lifetime.
Yeah.
Speaking of memorable moments, let's talk about combat.
Okay, combat.
Yeah, because that's a big part of D&D.
It is.
But how do we make those battles feel epic?
Yeah, how do we go beyond just rolling dice?
Right.
And make it feel really heroic?
That's what I want to know, because the article talks about how to make combat more than just, another fight.
Yeah, like how do we use the environment and the story to make it really memorable?
What are some examples?
Well, imagine a battle on a crumbling bridge.
Okay.
High above a raging river.
Oh, wow, that's intense.
Yeah, so the ground could collapse at any moment.
That adds a whole new level of danger.
Right.
You're not just fighting the enemy, you're fighting the environment too.
And what if the enemies are like desperate refugees?
Okay.
Who are just trying to survive?
Oh, that changes things.
Yeah, so now it's not so clear-cut.
Right. Do you fight them? Or do you try to find another way?
Exactly.
Those are the kinds of choices that make combat feel really meaningful.
It's not just about winning.
Right. It's about making tough decisions.
And those decisions should have consequences.
Yeah.
Maybe if you fight them, innocent people get hurt.
Okay.
But if you find a peaceful solution, you gain allies.
Right.
It shows that your choices matter.
And that those battles are part of a bigger story.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this story is driven by the players.
It all comes back to that.
That's the beauty of D&D.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative storytelling experience. The Dungeon Master sets the stage.
Right.
But the players decide what happens.
And within that space, you can have all these amazing moments.
Big and small.
Yeah.
From epic battles to quiet acts of kindness.
It's all about creating a world that feels real and giving players the power to change it.
And remembering that heroism can take many forms.
Absolutely.
It's not always about being the strongest or the most powerful.
Sometimes it's about making the hard choices.
Yeah.
And standing up for what's right.
And those are the moments that make D&D so special.
They really are.
Because they stay with you long after the game is over.
They become part of your story.
Yeah. Thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like the choices and the consequences and the villains and how we make combat feel epic.
Right.
It all kind of comes back to storytelling.
It really does.
Like that's the heart of D&D. We get together.
Yeah.
We roll some dice.
We tell a story.
And it's more than just entertainment.
It is.
It's like a shared experience.
Yeah, it's like we're creating something together.
We're building a world.
And it's full of like laughter and tension and, those moments where you're just like on the edge of your seat.
Oh, yeah.
Waiting to see what happens.
And the stories stick with you.
They do.
Even after the game is over.
You remember the characters.
The inside jokes.
The crazy things that happen.
Yeah, and that's why crafting those heroic moments is so important.
Yeah.
It's not just about winning.
Right.
It's about creating something that really means something to the players.
That they'll remember.
And it doesn't have to be like a huge world-changing event.
Right.
It could be something small.
Yeah, like a moment of personal growth.
Or a sacrifice.
Or just showing compassion.
Or like that quiet act of defiance. When you stand up for what you believe in.
Even when it's hard.
Yeah.
That can be really powerful.
I can inspire people.
Yeah.
Even in real life.
It's about those little choices that show who you really are.
Like choosing to forgive someone.
Yeah.
Who's hurt you.
Even though it's hard.
Yeah, that's true. Heroism.
It is.
It's not about power.
Right.
It's about doing the right thing.
Even when it's not easy.
So how do we bring more of these moments into our games?
We'll start with the little things.
Yeah.
Like, how do the NPCs react to the players?
Yeah.
Do they show gratitude? Do they spread rumors about the party's deeds?
Okay.
Those little details can make the world feel real.
And don't be afraid of the unexpected.
Yeah, sometimes the best moments are the ones you didn't plan for.
Right.
A lucky roll.
A crazy plan.
A moment of sacrifice.
Yes, those are the things that people remember.
And it's not about being perfect.
Oh.
It's about having fun.
And letting the players tell their stories.
Exactly.
Big thanks to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello.
Yeah, great article.
For inspiring this deep dive. We'll put a link in the show notes.
Definitely.
You can check it out.
And let us know what you think.
Yeah, tell us about your favorite heroic moments.
Yeah, what makes them special?
Share your stories in the comments below.
We love hearing from you.
Until next time.
Happy gaming.
May your adventures be filled with courage and compassion.
And those amazing moments that make D&D so special.